And we are live. Pound for Pound Sports Entertainment. Hit that like button, comment below, share, do all of that. It's your host, F. Merritt, sitting here with the legendary Mr. Rick Glaser, Mr. International Agent, Broker, and Consultant. Been in the game for 4 decades. Listen, all respect due. I appreciate you, Mr. Rick Glaser, for being on the show. How you doing, sir?
Good. Thanks for having me, Fred. Much appreciated. Glad to be here today.
All right, let's get it started, man. A lot of things going on in boxing. First of all, today, one of the big topics everybody's been talking about, Anthony Joshua, Eddie Hearn talking about Deontay Wilder possibly being on his list of opponents. What do you think about that?
I don't think Deontay Wilder should ever lace up a pair of boxing gloves again. I think that the beatings he took in two fights, in the last two fights were, the last two Fury fights were horrendous. The last fight ended a face plant, and I think he's going to be physically, mentally damaged, and I just don't think he's ever going to be the same fighter again. I think he's going to balance will be bad. His balance was bad before. His balance will be worse. He won't be as fast. He won't have the punch resistance. He won't have the reflex action. You just can't take a beating like that and be completely 100% ever again.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it was tough, man. I was there. I was there for all three fights, all three Fury fights, man. It was, I don't know. I'm kind of happy that it's over with. It is what it is. The build up was good. I think we're ready to move on. What do you think about people saying Deontay Wilder possibly has two fights left, maybe a Andy Ruiz as a comeback fight, and
He
then
shouldn't fight
maybe
again. Even he's having second questions now about fighting again.
mm,
Man's probably sitting on 30, $40 million. Um, why fight? He's got
yeah,
enough money the rest of his life. If you just take, just to give you an idea, if you take 2%, okay, of $10 million, okay, you take it, multiply it by four, $40 million. He can live happily ever the rest of his life just on interest, and without even investing the money. So
yeah,
why fight at this point? He's going to be damaged. I mean, you see some of these ex-fighters and ex-football players, and it's rough later in life. You've got to plan for the future, and when it not only financially, but when it comes to your health and welfare. And I don't think he should fight again. I mean, he took a. Let me tell you, in the second fight, he took a beating for 7 rounds. First fight, he took a beating, but it was mostly jabs. The second fight, he got the beat down for 7 complete rounds. The last fight, he got the beat down from the fifth round to the 11th round when he got the face plant. The first 4 rounds weren't bad, but after that, he took a beating. And he's been in those are rough fights. And don't forget, another thing is he was behind in the Luis Ortiz fights when he stopped them both times.
mhm.
So he's been in some rough fights.
I
So I
mean,
just don't think he should fight again.
he's
Okay,
always behind though.
well, yeah, but what I'm saying to you is it's the total amount of damage you've taken over the last 3 years has been tremendous.
Mm,
Just, the last fight ending in a face plant. I mean, he's even having doubts right now to fight again. So that
yeah,
just shows you where his head's at. When you don't forget, when you're thinking about retiring, you are retired.
yeah, that is true. Do you think Do you think when a fighter takes a loss, kind of like Lennox Lewis, honestly, okay, do you think Deontay Wilder should have went to someone like a Lennox Lewis that is lost multiple times, but been able to come back and kind of overcome that?
Yes, and I'm sure they've talked because Lennox is in that PBC circle and is the announcer for their Fox fights. So I'm sure somewhere along the line they have talked, or somebody put him on the phone with Deontay, maybe Shelley Finkel or somebody. I don't know that for a fact, but I suspect that happened.
Mhm.
But I just don't think that he should be fighting anymore. It's have pity on the man, on the man. Just he's taken enough punishment.
Is Deontay Wilder a Hall of Famer?
I think he'll be voted in, but I don't think he's a true Hall of Famer. No, doesn't
Well,
have a he doesn't have a significant win on his record where a legacy win. Does not
mhm,
have a legacy win. Maybe over longevity because he defended the title so many times and he's an American. He may get in, but he's not. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer.
Okay. So, AJ, if we just scratch off Deontay Wilder off the list of opponents, Usyk's obviously defending his country in the Ukraine. So that's gonna
Probably,
be
I would say Otto Wallin would be the next best choice, for a lot of reasons. Usyk's left-handed, so is he. He can work with his new trainer, or his new head trainer, I should say, because he was already still with him as the assistant trainer. And I think that Otto Wallin is the right guy. Otto Wallin is known in the United States to fight fans. He's a good identity per fighter, and he lost a controversial fight to Tyson Fury. Now he did lose the fight. Don't get me. I'm not saying Fury didn't win, but it was still I've said the wrong word. It wasn't controversial. It was competitive fight.
Mm,
I'm sorry, competitive fight to Tyson Fury. So
yep.
there you go. I think that's a hallmark. That's a great. That's what you call a great loss. It was like Razor Ruddock did the first time with Mike Tyson. And the second time, great losses. You know what I mean? That's what. That's just the way it is. Sometimes a guy can lose and be better than known before, and that's what the deal was with Razor Ruddock and Mike Tyson, and that's what Otto Wallin and Tyson Fury was. So I think that would be a sensible choice. I know his promoter Demetrius Slita would work with Eddie Hearn, has done so before, and I think it's a good mix myself.
Okay. Moving on to Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte. What's your thoughts on that fight? What's your thoughts on Dillian Whyte not showing up to the press conference and
I think
having
it's
his issues?
horrible. I think
Yeah.
it's horrible. I think it sets a bad precedent in boxing, that when your side loses the purse bid, you cause all kinds of ruckus, and it's got to stop. It's got to stop. There are rules the WBC has in the purse bid situation, for world title fights and eliminators.
Mhm.
Whether Mauricio Sulaiman, the president of WBC, acts on it or not, we'll see. But I think he will eventually. I think he's going to give him the pass the first time when he didn't show up. But if this goes on any further, that he refuses appearances and stuff like that, and especially podcast appearances and interviews with newspaper writers, I think that he'll act some way, shape, or form.
You think he's acting this way because it's not Eddie Hearn putting on the show and it's Frank Warren?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think Eddie's edging him on. Of course, he is trying to show control over the fighter and trying to show control over that. He knows it's not his promotion. Him causing a ruckus. I mean, yeah, exactly. But to tell you the truth, White's a handful to deal with. Everybody tells me that. Everybody can't be wrong. There's truth in quantity. They tell me he's a handful as a person to deal with. So, maybe that's got something to do with it too.
You think maybe it's ego? He thinks he's possibly bigger than what he is or worth more than what
Every fighter does. Have you ever met a fighter that didn't think his public persona is bigger than it is? Come on now, they all do. Every
Yeah.
one of them does. They always think they're not getting enough money. They're getting robbed. Somebody's always telling them that. I'll tell you a great story real quick. Okay, years ago, remember this is in the 1990s. I'm looking for a fighter to fight Larry Holmes on the USA Network, and I told the fighter $25,000. And he says, okay, let me talk to my trainer. He didn't have a manager. And he said, I'll get back to you tonight. So I didn't hear from him that night. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, I get a phone call. Yeah. I said, how you doing? He goes, my homies are telling me the fight's worth 500,000. I says, what are your homies? Okay. Where are these homies? Who are these homies? The guys at the pool hall. Okay. Well, he didn't get the fight. And that's how it goes. He says that, and I said, just tell me how much money you'll make that night if you don't fight. That's all there was to it. So what can you say? So there's always somebody blowing in somebody's ear with misinformation. 500,000 to fight a 40-some-year-old Larry Holmes.
Yeah.
The kid was lucky to get the fight for 25, the opportunity to fight. So what are you going to do?
Yeah. And something that I've noticed nowadays with boxers nowadays, it's like, you think they care about legacy or the money?
The only legacy they care about is being undefeated. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter who they fought.
I mean, you could.
It's not a true legacy. A true legacy is Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Marvelous Marvin Hagler. These guys just think that being undefeated like Floyd Mayweather has set that precedent that everything's all right as long as you got the big zero next to your name. No, that's not true.
Mm. You think some managers and promoters kind of hold their fighters back from actually taking the big fights because
Oh,
maybe.
absolutely. Al Heyman's the number one example. It wasn't happening in boxing until he came along. Now, if he rears his ugly head, he's got a fighter. You know the fight's not happening.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of questions about, or maybe a little beef between you and Al Haymon. Is that true, or like what's the backstory on
Well,
that?
I had a problem with him 20 years ago, and he was wrong, and I proved him wrong even, and at that time, and I don't care for the guy.
Mm.
Okay,
You
that
guys,
doesn't mean that was that.
you guys haven't talked about it or ran into
No,
each other or
no,
anything?
no. He doesn't talk to anybody. He doesn't come to the fights. He doesn't. He doesn't not accessible to people. He's got this little teeny small clique around him. A couple guys. That's it. He's the phantom.
Mm. You
Okay,
think that,
he's a
you think
phantom.
you think that's a good or bad thing?
That's a bad thing. How does he promote his fighters? Can't talk for his fighters. How does he express what his fighters are doing next? How does he express how good his fighters are? Bob Arum talks to the press. Don King talks to the press. Frank Warren talks to the press. Eddie Hearn, he can't keep his mouth shut. So there
Yeah.
you go, which is not a bad thing. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying to you, everybody seems to be are very successful.
Mm. I noticed
How
on
can you not talk? How do you refuse to talk to the press when they're writing stuff about your fighter? It's comical.
that is no argument there, sir. But I did notice on Twitter you talked about the Charlo twins and how they're being poorly promoted. You have any idea about that or
Yeah,
backstory?
when do they fight? The one the 60-pounder Jermall, he fights stiffs. The other guy is in some real fights, but it's not consistent enough. They fight so infrequently. They fight 3 times over a 24-month period. Come on, guys. That's not promotion.
So to help them, you think them being promoted better, like I guess fighting more, being more active, that would help them get to the
100%.
next
The
level?
only people who know the Charlos are absolutely diehard boxing fans.
Mm.
Okay. Now, to give you an example, people say that Crawford is not well promoted. My brother-in-laws don't know who the Charlos are, but they know Terence Crawford. And they're casuals. They
Mm.
don't know the Charlos. They know Lomachenko. They know Charlo. Of course, they know Canelo, Tyson, Fury, Anthony Joshua.
Mm.
But the Charlos are like unknowns almost. I think people misread what I was saying. I wasn't saying they were getting arrested intentionally. I was saying if they were, it's not such a crazy idea. If you see that last sentence, I said it's
Mhm.
not such a crazy idea because it would make sense. I didn't say the Charlos were doing it intentionally. People misunderstood what I was saying.
Okay.
So
I mean, it's been rumors that Jermall Charlo sent an offer to Jaime Munguia over at Golden Boy. What are
well,
your
he
thoughts
didn't
on that?
send it off for anybody. Al Heyman would have, but that or Tom Brown. So TGB. But what do I think? I think that Munguia will beat him. I think Munguia wipes the floor with him.
Really? Huh.
Easy, easy,
Easy. Okay. Okay. Okay.
easy.
Hey.
Maybe by knockout.
Wow. Do you think Jaime would take that fight? Do you think Oscar would let him take that fight?
Absolutely, absolutely. As long as
You,
there's no options tied to PBC,
do you think
you know,
PBC and Al Haymon they give out contracts with options, or is that more like a Bob Arum type of thing?
that's everybody does that in business. But
Mm.
don't forget, Munguia is number one. So we'll
He's
see how that plays out.
he's been number one. Wasn't he? He's mandatory
Yeah,
for
and
Andrade
the
belt.
BO too. That's right.
So
Yep.
he's been number one for a
He,
while.
right. He grew. He's now grown in. They were worried because he was 54 and then he moved up, and they wanted him to be a strong 60-pounder instead of a regular 60. Now he's grown into a strong 60-pounder. They did that correctly.
Didn't he pass out?
What's that?
Didn't he pass out like after the weigh-in of his last fight
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Tijuana?
yeah. He did. He did. He did.
I mean,
But he had a
what's your
little
thoughts?
he had a little problem in camp. He had to take about 10 days off of running and stuff. He had a problem with his ankle. There's something happened in the ring, so that's why he was a little on the iffy on the weight and for that fight.
Okay.
But if he would have had continuous right in the thing, right in the camp, he would have made the weight no problem.
Mhm. I mean, I'm looking forward to that fight if it happens. I hope it happens. Jermall needs a big fight like that. I think Jaime Munguia needs a big fight like that. It makes sense right now. Triple G's
Oh, it
tied up
does.
with
It's
Murata.
definitely a blizzard. It's definitely a pay-per-view fight. It's two undefeated fighters. It's a Mexican, which is always important. The guy's a former WBO champ at 54. It's a no-brainer. It's a good fight, and it makes sense for pay-per-view. It's a fight that you can do in Southern California, San Diego, LA. It does big numbers, big numbers.
Another fight in the 160 division. Triple G gets Murata. What's your thoughts on that?
I think Murata can win. Very capable. Very capable. He was an Olympian. He's got a great jab. He's got a really good straight right hand. He's big for the weight class. He's a strong guy. He's got really good balance. And he's 4 years younger than GGG. He's 36 years old. GGG's 40 now, 40 April 8th, the day of the fight, which it's the 9th over here, but it's the 8th over there.
Mm-hmm.
So my point is that I think that GGG is going to be a little on the back nine. He's been in a lot of wars as a professional and as an amateur, especially in the last few years with the Canelo fights. And some of the fights weren't exactly easy. The Sergey Lomachenko fight was rough. I think that he's going to be in a tough fight. I can see Murata grabbing that IBF belt in Japan.
If Murata does pull it off against Triple G, do you think Canelo takes on Murata, or do you think it's just going to be Triple G?
Well, Murata and Triple G will be so big for everybody involved. I mean, it'd be mega. It would be much bigger than GGG because he brings that Asian audience to the fight. He brings the Japanese TV. Just it would be so big.
Speaking of Canelo, Canelo's taking on Bivol. What's your thoughts on that?
He's the best fighter that he could have fought right now. Okay, he's much better than David Benavidez. Charlo, don't even mention that in the same breath as Canelo. He stops him with a double hook to the body pretty quick. Canelo would stop Charlo. It'd be too easy. Benavidez would be a good tough fight, but not as tough as Bivol because of style, because Bivol's got that jab. Beterbiev's there. He's fighting Joe Smith. So I would imagine what we're going to have here is, so let's just say for GGG wins, okay? I can see Canelo's going to win. Let's just say GGG wins. He fights GGG, fights Canelo, and Canelo gets rid of GGG in September. I can see him unifying the title at the end of the year, or maybe the first month of next year against the winner of Beterbiev and Smith. I can see that happening. So Beterbiev is on the back nine. He can't back up. He can't pivot anymore. His legs are gone, and he's not what he was.
I mean,
And then what's his name? What's that? I'm sorry.
You talking about Joe Smith?
No, Beterbiev. Beterbiev.
Okay. So if Canelo and Beterbiev fought for undisputed at 175, what will be your thoughts on that?
Canelo, too much of a fighter, too fresh, too young compared to Beterbiev. Beterbiev had 1 million amateur fights, and he's like 36, 37 years old. And I just think that Canelo beats him, not easy, but easier than people would think to beat a guy like a Beterbiev.
So if Canelo goes to 175 and becomes undisputed again, what does that do for his legacy? Like, where do you rank him all time?
His legacy will be, he'll be considered the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, probably the greatest Latino fighter, period, of all time.
Wow.
Probably.
Wow. Yes. I mean, at the end of the day, who in the game can beat Canelo right now? Who would you pick that
Nobody.
would give? So
Nobody.
nobody can beat
He would beat the cruiserweights. He'd beat the middleweights. He beat the super middleweights. He beat the light heavyweights.
him. Yes.
He does. Let me explain something to you, Fred. He does things that are subtly, very subtle things in there that make him the winner that he is. Forget about how strong he is. Forget about how accurate his punches are. He does little stuff. He does the shoulder roll occasionally. He skates around the guy. He occasionally uses his feet. He just does little subtle things, and it makes him great. He's a complete fighter, inside, outside. He can do it all. He controls the ring beautifully with the jab and double hooks to the body. He just is a brilliant guy in that ring.
I agree.
And not a bad businessman either, obviously.
Yeah, he's getting it right now. He's getting it. Hey man, what do you think about
He
Canelo?
may never make the money Floyd did because he doesn't have a Pacquiao. In other words, where he could make that huge money in one fight because he doesn't have that kind of a challenger. But if he had, he would.
Now, piggybacking off of that and kind of adding Canelo telling all the fighters that they need to fight each other, do you think Canelo's thinking, I need to build these other guys up?
Oh, correct. They don't warrant fighting him right now. But Benavidez has no belt. Charlo's got no belt at 68. There's nothing there to fight for. It's all Canelo. The promotion is Canelo.
Do you think if Benavidez wouldn't have lost his belt on the scales, do you think Canelo would have still came to 68 and probably went around collecting the belts the same way?
What happened? I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Do you think if Benavidez wouldn't have lost his belt on the scales, his WBC belt, and
No, he would have.
ultimately,
No, because he would have had a fight. Oh, you mean to be undisputed? Oh, yeah. He would have fought him already and beat him already.
okay, yeah, that's
Canelo would have beat him already.
That's what a lot of people are saying. Like, oh, Canelo wouldn't have fought Benavidez if he would have kept his belt. And I blame Benavidez for all of this. Which me personally, I kind of do blame Benavidez. I mean, if you don't lose your belt on the scale and if you're disciplined, because not to mention this is the second time you lost his belt. First time, different circumstance, but nonetheless, second time you lost your belt. Then you're sitting there complaining about certain things and not getting fights, and like you can't.
That guy's got more second chances. For a young guy, he's all his second chances already came before he was 23 years old, two of them. What more do you want? He's got to be the professional that he isn't.
Yeah, I'll give you that. He's a great fighter, though. I think he's a
very
awesome
good fighter. Not great. Do not use the word great. He's another guy. Doesn't hold a significant win on his record yet, but he's only 24 years old. He might become a great fighter. Don't get me wrong, but not right now. Too early.
I think a lot of people forget that he's crazy. He's super young. 24. That's crazy, man. He's got plenty of time.
He's already lost 2 belts, the same one.
Yeah. See, we're gonna switch gears to the welterweight division now. We got Errol Spence and Ugas coming up, Dallas Stadium. What's your thoughts on that fight?
I think Ugas is capable of winning the fight in the ring, but he'll never get a decision in the state of Texas. And with the WBC and just not. I mean, I'm sorry. Notwithstanding the WBC is what I meant to say. Just not going to get a decision in Spence's home state, his hometown. Just not happening. But Ugas in the ring will do well.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on Errol Spence coming back from another injury? First with the car accident, came back. Danny Garcia looked phenomenal. Now it's the eye injury.
You know what? He's fighting somebody really good because he has to make the money that he makes. He should have taken a less money and a less fight and fought a regular guy. He shouldn't have jumped into this fight. I definitely would have, because you're not the same after eye injury. I know you're sparring and stuff. Sparring is different than fighting. And he needed that ring action against a guy who's not too fast and a non-puncher compared to a guy who's pretty fast. And I don't think that was the smartest move I've ever seen.
Are we going to get Errol Spence, Terence Crawford?
No.
We're not going to get it?
No.
It's not happening. No way possible.
No way. Let me explain. Let me explain part of the reason. Forget the fact that Errol won't fight him. We won't. Crawford's been chasing him for years. When Crawford was going to 47, we'll have him get a belt, and then we'll fight. He don't have a belt. Well, you had a belt, and you still haven't fought him in years. Okay, that's number one. Number two is Jim Gray interviewed him in the ring, I believe, and after one of the fights within the last couple of years, and he said, "Oh," he says, are you going to fight Terence Crawford next?" I don't, not thinking about stuff like that. I'm going to my ranch and play with my horses and my chickens. Well, let me tell you something. If you would have said that was Marvelous Marvin Hagler or Tommy Hearns or Ray Leonard or Roberto Duran, they would have been saying, "I want to tear his head off and shit in his neck." Turn around and promoter is make that fight next, you cockroach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay? You didn't hear Errol say that, did you? He took that about as passive a way out to get out of that conversation as ever. That's not a good sign. But here's the other reason why the fight's not going to get made. Okay? Al Haymon.
You really think Al Haymon's stopping this type of fight? This legacy fight?
I'll explain to you why. Okay?
Okay.
He's not going to actually stop the fight. But what he's done in the last 7 years is going to cause him to stop the fight. Here's why. He's been overpaying all these guys with other people's money, okay, which was Whyte Reed, and he paid all these guys too much. Okay? Now he can't pay them enough to fight each other because he's paid them too much to fight phony guys. Okay? Phony fights. Okay? Now, let me explain where I'm coming from. You ready? Mm-hmm. In June, I know you're a young man, but I'm going to give you a little history here. In June of 1980, Sugar Ray Leonard fought Roberto Duran. Duran moved up from lightweight, fought fought a couple welterweight fights, and he set his eyes on Ray Leonard. It was the biggest fight of all time in 1980. Ray Leonard got $10 million. Okay. And Duran got $2 million for the fight. How were they able to make the fight? Duran's highest purse before that was like $400,000, and Ray Leonard's was like $2 million. So they gave each guy 5 times as much to fight each other. Went from 2 to 10, and the other guy went from 4 to $2 million. You understand what I'm saying now? Does this make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. So 5 times as much. Okay, if Spence is getting $5-6 million to fight regular guys, how's he going to pay Spence 25 to 30 million? He can't. So Al Haymon overpaying guys with other people's money is part of the reason why this fight won't happen today. Because if Errol was fighting for $2 million, he'd gladly fight for 15 million, or if he was fighting for $3 million, he'd fight for 15. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
But that's why the fight can't get made. And Crawford's already just made $6 million to fight Porter. You'd have to pay him $10 million. So how are you going to pay those guys that kind of money? You can't. So Al Haymon has caused that fight, not intentionally, not to happen, but his actions over the last 7 years has caused that fight to happen, not to happen. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. So it really doesn't matter if Terence Crawford got out of the top rank deal and came over to sign the PBC. It wouldn't have mattered. He wouldn't get a fight anyway.
Listen, Errol was screaming all along. What was he screaming? You remember those words? Oh, you're on the wrong side of the street, Mo. Right? Well, now he's a free agent. You don't see Al Haymon calling him up, making him offers. Come on over. You can fight Thurman and Spence. They don't want to fight him. It's all bullshit. If what's his name gets by Ugas, if he wins, okay, I think he moves up to 54, Spence, or he maybe fights Thurman. Maybe.
That was the next question.
They're not fighting neither Thurman or Crawford. I don't care what side of the street Crawford's on, because he's a free agent. They can't use Errol as a crutch Fact of life, they're not fighting him. Okay, if they were fighting him, Al Haymon would have signed them up already, wouldn't you?
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
I mean, some people are gonna say maybe Terence Crawford gets in the ring after Errol Spence if he wins against Ugas. Maybe he gets in the ring and they do a little face off. Maybe the deal's already done.
No, he would have signed them up quietly already, and I would have heard about it.
Okay. What do you think about Keith Thurman? What's next for Keith Thurman? Do you think Al makes the Keith Thurman Errol Spence fight?
Whether Spence or Ugas wins, if Ugas wins, Crawford has a good chance to fight Ugas because Ugas doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
So that's a possibility, unless Ugas or Crawford Earl do a rematch. Who knows? You know what? There's so many moving parts with PBC and so many hidden agendas. Who knows? You don't know.
Do you think maybe we could take Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, that fight, over to the Middle East or something? You know,
what value would it have?
I mean, if they were willing to pay the the purses.
Two Americans fighting each other over there wouldn't do shit.
So basically, they got to take a pay cut in order to make this fight happen.
No, not a pay cut, but they can't get any more than they've been making. What they should do is whatever Earl's been making and whatever Terence has been making, guarantees, that's their purse, and then give them a percentage of the upside.
Okay.
Each give them each one a third of the upside, or 25% of the upside, and the promotion keeps 50% of the upside, something like that, or a third apiece, something. But they won't do that. The fighters, because Spence is the one that won't do it.
Okay. I mean, it's not a bad thing necessarily, because I mean, hey, I've earned this money. I want to keep my money. It's the highest purse that I've been getting right now fighting these guys or whatever. So why take a chance and fight Terence Crawford? Like you said, why not take the easy road?
That's what he's been doing.
Exactly. But if they were to fight Terence Crawford and Errol Spence, who do you get?
Crawford, easy. Easy. Now, before the car accident, before the eye injury, I would have said it was a 50-50 fight. I would flip the coin. That game's over.
Okay. Ah, man.
So you saw what Crawford did to Porter, but you saw Porter in World War III with Spence.
Yes.
Before Spence was all screwed up, right?
Absolutely.
There's your answer.
Are you kind of, buddy? Let's be honest. Like, are you kind of like are you done with this crop of welterweights as far as everybody, like, taking forever for everybody to fight each other? Are you ready for the new crop, the new generation to just step up?
I'm ready for Victor Ortiz. Virgil Ortiz. I'm sorry, Virgil Ortiz. I'm ready for Boots Ennis. I'm ready for Stanionis. I'm ready for all those guys now.
Do you think any of those guys could beat Errol Spence or Terence Crawford right now?
Absolutely. They wouldn't be Crawford, but Boots Ennis would give Crawford a great fight, but he wouldn't beat him right now. He's not experienced enough in the bigger fights.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So what type of guys do you think Boots Ennis needs to fight in order to get ready for the upper echelon?
He just got to mature physically a little more and mentally a little more, and get a little more seasoning, experience. A year and a half from now, he'll beat Crawford. He just won't beat Crawford right now.
Do you think his lack of getting, I guess, bigger name guys is because he's not signed to Al Haymon right now?
No, because those guys wouldn't fight him. He'd be in the same situation as Crawford. They won't fight Crawford either. Well, it's nothing to do with Al Haymon.
Dang, so it's because of the fact that he's just that good, and everybody kind of sees
just
what
like
he
Crawford, is. Just like Crawford is. They're not dying to fight him.
Let's switch gears to 154 division real quick. Jermell Charlo, Brian Castanos, the rematch. What was your thoughts on the first fight?
I thought Castano won, but it wasn't it was pretty close. It was, an even fight. Could have won. I just gave a slight edge to Castano, but it was a good fight.
Okay. What's your thoughts on the second fight? Who do you think makes the adjustments to win?
I think that Charlo will make the adjustments because he's the better athlete. So I think the fighter that's a better athlete can make the adjustments easier than the guy that's not that good an athlete.
Okay. Now, did you see? I know you probably heard about the Brian Custer interview with Jermell Charlo going off on Castanos and talk about the drug testing or lack thereof, and you know all the issues, and then talking about Terence Crawford. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, sure.
Like, what was your thoughts on all that?
It's just a fighter expressing how he feels about something. That some things are true, some things aren't. You know, so I don't know. Just happy horse shit, as I call it.
With Terence Crawford, being on in Jermall Charlo's, I guess on his mind, could you possibly see that fight happening? If
I see that fight happening because Crawford will fight Godzilla, and Jermell Charlo thinks he can win. Now that is a good fight. I don't know who wins, but that's a good fight.
I mean, hey, Terence Crawford, he doesn't have a fight scheduled, and he hasn't been saying anything. Maybe he's getting ready to come up.
Well, the last couple of years, he really only fought basically once a year. So the fact that he doesn't have a fight, he just fought in November 20th. So we're not that far into the year here. We're only in March.
Josh Taylor being a potential future opponent for Terence Crawford. He just came up with a split decision victory over Jack Catterall.
Yep.
What was your thoughts on that? I personally had Jack Catterall winning that fight, but what were your thoughts on that?
I had Taylor winning 113, 112. I thought that, not including the one round where he took the point away late in the fight from Taylor, I thought he swept the last part of the fight, the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. He won 3 out of the 4. The other one was even because of the point deduction, and I thought that won him the fight. I had the other guy had 2 points going into the 9th round. And Catterall, I thought the guy won 3 out of the 4 of the last rounds. The one he didn't win was even, I thought, because of the point deduction. And I thought he was 113, 112 that Taylor won. I don't know what the controversy is about. The controversy should be the one judge who had it 3 points wide. It could have went either way. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't a robbery. And many. The funny thing, fans thought it was a robbery. People in the business over here didn't think it was a robbery. They thought it could have went either way, and it just didn't go in his favor. Now, the one score for Taylor of 114 to 111 was ridiculous. That part was ridiculous.
What do you think about a potential rematch? Josh Taylor's team said he would possibly be open to fighting Jack Catterall at 150 catch weight?
It's not going to happen. Catterall's in position to fight for a vacant title. If Taylor gives him up and goes up and fight, I think he'll take one tune-up before he fights Crawford. And if he fights Crawford, it's fantastic. It's a huge fight. Huge fight over there. It's a big fight over here. It's big, period. A lot of money.
Okay. I seen a little photo shoot that they had for promotion of Shakur Stevenson, Oscar Valdez. Now this, Shakur Stevenson's been calling out Oscar Valdez for a minute. I'm kind of happy that this fight is finally happening.
Easy fight. Shakur, I mean, he's not going to knock him down 7 times like Floyd knocked down Diego Corrales when he won that 130-pound unification bout with Corrales. But it's at the MGM. It's in Vegas. It's at the MGM. It's the same weight class. And Shakur is special like Floyd, and I think he plays with him. It probably goes the limit. I don't see him stopping him. But it goes the limit, and he wins a pretty one-sided decision. I can see a 117, 111, 117, 111, 118, 110 type of scores.
Okay.
I don't think this is good. It's a great fight going in anticipation, but it will not turn out to be that great fight that people think it is. I don't see that happening.
You think after Shakur unifies, you think he comes up to 135?
No. I think he'll have a couple title defenses till he grows into 35. He makes 30 pretty comfortably. Remember, he just moved up from 26 not too long ago.
He's a big dude, man. I seen a picture with him standing next to
I know, but I think he wins, and I think he defends maybe once. Maybe, then probably move up, I would think, and conquer 35, conquer 26, unified at At 30, moves up to the 135. I can see that happening.
Speaking of 135, we're still waiting on Kambosos to pick who he's gonna choose, man. Like, what's your thoughts on that? I seen you said something about it.
It's that famous Simon and Garfunkel line. I know you're not much into Simon and Garfunkel, the music, but I will tell you it's called a dangling conversation. What it is. I mean, they're not lovers, okay, but it's a dangling conversation.
I mean, Lomachenko's obviously fighting for his country, so I mean, that's who I thought Kambosos was going to end up going with. I thought Bob was
I
going to
did
have
too,
that.
but that war broke out and things change. He's fighting for family, pride, his country. You can't. Yeah, I don't blame him. I don't blame Usyk. I don't blame anybody.
Yeah, but I mean, unfortunately, the business it has to keep on rolling. So right now, Kambosos, they're trying to get the biggest. They're trying to get the biggest fight possible, as much money as possible. His promoters, Ludabella. I know you guys got some kind of history. I don't know where you guys stand right now.
You mean the scum-sucking pig?
I mean, what happened with that? Like, where did that originate?
He stiffed me out of $7,500 in 2010. Outright stiffed me. Then he tried to act like I was trying to extort him. He told people that I was trying to extort him out of money. That he said he's trying to get me for $7,500. He said he's going to cause a bad reputation in the business, make up some story that unless I send him $7,500. And everybody knew it was a lie. He's full of shit. He's a fraud.
Okay. That's a terrible situation. See, sometimes I think a lot of people don't understand. It's like a battle amongst the people's team and the business side of it.
Listen, I always say there's two different battles in boxing. The fighters are fighting, and the people in the business are fighting each other too, even though they may not be throwing punches at each other.
I mean, but when everything lines up and all the money's on the table, everybody can get a lot of money.
You know how many times you hear in a boxing argument between two guys in the business, if you say one more word, what are you gonna do? Kill me? That's what they always say. I mean, come on. They think because they're around fighters, they're real macho. It's just the mentality of the people we're dealing with in boxing.
So, I mean, moving forward to Devin Haney, where does this leave him? Kambosos hasn't made a decision.
He still might get the Kambosos fight, but he was at $4 million, and Eddie wanted to pay him like it was a regular fight because he had to overpay Kambosos and Ludabella. So, who knows what's going to happen there? I don't know.
So basically, Devin Haney, I mean, that's good to get your money. That's number one. Get your money. But he's being overpaid by Eddie Hearn.
Yeah, he's getting a couple million a fight to fight bums.
So that's the reason.
They say it's the Al Haymon thing. You can't pay him any more money to fight a better fighter. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's interesting.
If he was paying him $600,000 a fight, which he should be making $500,000 or $600,000 a fight, okay, can't draw a crowd. He's not an attraction. So he should get getting $500,000-$600,000. If he gave him $2 million, he can give him 3-4 times as much as he's making. He can't, I'm sorry, 500,000, four times, 5 times, maybe even $2.5 million. He's already paid him $2 million.
So the fact that he's making that much money,
These promoters are causing their own problems. People aren't seeing that.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, are some promoters kind of
Let me ask you a question. Did Danny Garcia deserve $1.5 million to fight Rod Salka? That's what he got.
No comment.
That's why you can't make the biggest fights. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I mean, maybe these promoters, they're trying to get the network deal, and then they just distribute the network money amongst the fighters.
Doesn't work like that because then you don't have enough money to make the bigger fights.
I mean, they say they're only trying to do in-house fights. That's what
Well, that's what Floyd's saying. That's what Haymon's doing. Floyd's speaking basically for Haymon and Tank Davis, and so is crazy Leonard. It's the way it is.
Okay. So basically, we don't really know what Devin Haney is going to be doing next as far as an opponent at 135.
Listen,
you think he should just go up to
if I knew the answer to that question, we'd be all rich.
You think
not just me?
You think Devin Haney should just drop the belt and go to 140, just get it over with?
No, because he won't be able to make that money without that belt at 140. He'd be just another guy standing in the line begging for a shot.
Okay. Ryan Garcia. What's your thoughts on Ryan Garcia?
Good fighter, needs to get his act together, needs to take boxing more seriously. Great left hook, good puncher, alert in there, good hand speed. Nothing. He's got to have outside the ring. He's got to be get himself and be more diligent and show the desire to want to do this at the top level.
What's your thoughts on him?
I think Oscar's done a great job with him. Tremendous job with him, to be honest with you.
What's your thoughts on Ryan Garcia leaving the Canelo gym?
It was the right thing to do.
Why so?
Was it? He wasn't getting the time. He's running around with Canelo, press tours and going with Canelo here. That's his breadwinner. Okay, let's say he gets 10% of Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia gets $1 million. That's $100,000. Let's say he's got 10% of Canelo. Canelo's getting 50 million. He's getting 5 million. Where's Ryan go to that conversation?
Yeah, not really.
That's like racing in Indianapolis 500 and being 25 laps down.
Yeah. You think the cheating allegations out of that camp, or you think that's a factor as well?
I don't think there's anything to do with the camp itself.
It's just the fact he's just not getting the time from Eddie Reynoso.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, yeah, you do. We got like Frank Sanchez over there, Oscar Valdez, Andy Ruiz. I think Andy Ruiz just left, if I'm not mistaken.
He just did too.
Yeah. It's a lot of stuff going on over there, man. You think Kambosos? Because there was a rumor that Kambosos was going to take an interim fight, a little stay busy fight. Him and Ryan Garcia.
I don't know. Maybe Eddie's going to do that. What I would do if I was Eddie Hearn, I'm going to tell you what I would do if I was Eddie Hearn. Okay, if I had both guys, and the organizations were allowed, because remember mandatories and all that other stuff, but I would have Kambosos fight over there, and Devin Haney over here, all on the same day. Okay, and then face each other. That's what I would do, and then put it on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
So would you send Devin Haney over to Australia, or would you make Kambosos come back to America?
Depends what the money difference was. Probably no difference. So they might as well stay here and have Kambosos come over here. Kambosos was fighting over here before. Why not?
True.
He won the title here.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on Tank versus Gervonta Tank Davis against Rolly Romero?
It's a joke. Come on. It's a joke.
You don't think Rolly has a chance?
No chance at all. Zero. But he deserves the fight. He got screwed the last time. That stupid cancer culture got him. And he was found not to have done anything that was considered illegal, no criminal acts, and he's back fighting. He should get the fight, but is it a competitive fight? No, that's a different issue. No.
Is this fight?
He couldn't have got the fight to start with.
Yeah, I agree.
Now it's a mandatory all of a sudden. Please.
Do you think this is going to be on pay-per-view?
Absolutely.
What's your thoughts on that? Just the fact that they're going to charge somebody, money to see this fight that shouldn't even be happening.
Just sad. Sad. That's why they can't get that. This is what I would have done if I had Gervonta Davis. Okay, I would have I wouldn't have put him on Showtime. I would have put him on Fox. I would have made a deal. I would have said, Fox, you get the live fights for fights. Okay, but the delay 1 month later, Showtime's going to get. Okay, or 2 weeks later, or whatever. Okay, something like that. Okay, but let America see the guy. Then go to pay-per-view and have Fox and Showtime do co-pay-per-views where they're both pumping up the fight and they're pumping up the show, and all of a sudden he's bigger, bigger, and bigger. No thought process at all. Leonard Ellerby and Floyd think they're real smart. They're not smart. Floyd was a great fighter. His personality, good looks, and his ability carried that organization. What are they doing?
Mm.
He's the best fighter nobody knows.
You think people don't know him? I mean, he was selling out. He
The
sold out Atlanta,
black,
Baltimore.
the urban culture knows him. So it's Baltimore, where he's from, Atlanta, okay, and LA. Okay, they know him. It's not translating the pay-per-view.
Mm. What's your thoughts on Fox? You know, is this the last year of Fox doing business with PBC potentially?
Well, it doesn't mean that they're going to end it, but I think they are, because you had a situation where they agreed to do the last year. There was an option year. This was the option year, and they accepted it. And normally, when you accept an option year, you come up with a new deal. Say, okay, listen, this is how we're going to do this deal. We want 3 more years. Forget this, but we're going to do this, this, and this. And they just took the option, so it doesn't sound too promising.
I see Pro Bellum. I see you kind of really give high praise to Pro Bellum, you know, and
Yeah,
they just signed a
I mean,
deal
they're
to
doing so far. They look like the cat's meow. They put on some beautiful shows over in Dubai in England. Next weekend they got two big weekends of fight, 2 double headers on weekends and Friday and Saturday. Then they got 2 shows in England. What can you say? They just got off the ground, and they got off the ground running. They got a great PR staff. I get beautiful friggin' every day. I get multiple emails from them. It's fantastic. They're so easy to, and Top Rank does the same thing. You know, these other organizations, you gotta like go and pry and search to find out things. Top Rank and Pro Bellum and MTK, everything's right there.
Yeah, I seen news that was it Pro Bellum just signed a deal with, I believe, Discovery.
Yeah, not Discovery in the United States.
Okay.
The company, but they own Eurosport. It's not in the United States.
Okay.
It's completely different. So it's not on Discovery. The company, the parent company, is Discovery.
Okay. First thing when I seen Discovery, I'm like Discovery Plus, like they're gonna put fights on.
No. It's the corporation owns a lot of networks. They own Eurosport.
Okay.
Which is big in Europe and on Ireland and all over there.
Yeah, that's good. And Pro Bellum is Richard Schaefer, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes. Yeah, that's Richard Schaefer. The COO is Eric Winter, and the chief strategy officer and the chief legal counsel is Harrison Whitman, who was with Top Rank previously.
Okay.
I mean, they got some good executives there, let me tell you.
Yeah. So, how do we make boxing as big as possible? How do we make boxing like in the forefront of, you know, entertainment? Like, let's say,
the best
NBA.
have to fight the best. They got to stop with all these Mickey Mouse belts, the intern belts, the regular belts, and I don't have a problem, and neither do fans, with 4 champions per weight class, but 4. WBA and once a year they got to fight one another.
Yeah, I'll be happy with that, because I think that's the biggest thing. I think a lot of times, especially like just being about, you know, in media and stuff, like everybody's just, I'm tired of talking about fights. Let's talk about the fights that are actually happening.
Right. Let me say this to you. That's one thing. Not putting fights on pay-per-view that don't deserve to be on pay-per-view. That's the other thing. Okay. And making the fighters true professional fighters again. Okay, in the sense that they fight 3-4 times a year instead of them fighting once a year, once every 18 months, like Haymon's fighter. It's a joke. It's gotten to be a joke.
I mean, some people say they fighting less because, you know, for health reasons and stuff like that. We want to, you know, ensure the safety of the fighters. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's bullshit. If that's the case, then fight 4 times a year and retire earlier. Or fight 3 times a year, defend your title, and retire earlier. That's all. When you're a champion, you got to hone your skills. You got to stay active. You can't disappear and all of a sudden reappear 10 months later, 8 months, like the Charlos. When was the last time the Charlos fought?
I don't even remember the last time Maul fought.
Maybe
Montiel.
a long time ago.
Yeah, last July or something. I don't know when he fought. So basically, when these fighters getting overpaid, it takes the hunger out of them.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
So basically, if we had like the UFC,
Another effect of Al Haymon. What I tell people, he's the ruination of professional boxing in America. People think it's funny or I'm stupid. I'm not funny and I'm not stupid. Okay. I've never been accused of stupidity in my entire life. Okay. He is the ruination of professional boxing in America. He tried to be the ruination of professional boxing in the UK, and they ran him out of the UK after a couple shows.
was that that card where he had Chris Eubanks, Joe Joyce, and
Yep.
Stavern on it?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep.
That was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, what fight are you, what's the biggest fight to you that you're really excited for?
I'm excited right now about Fury and Dillian Whyte. Not because I think Fury's got, Dillian Whyte's got a great shot to win, because he doesn't, but because the fight is so big.
Mm.
I mean, 85,000 tickets sold in a day. Let me ask you a question. What sells 85,000 tickets in America? Maybe Jay-Z's, U2, and some other group performing on the same stage on the same day, right? The same night, right?
Mm-hmm.
There it goes.
Oh, man. Were you disappointed that Wilder and AJ didn't happen?
No, not at all.
Did you expect it not to happen? You were like kind of already prepared, like this isn't gonna happen.
Yeah, not happening. Yeah. They remember Fury didn't happen because they thought Fury was shot. There was a cherry picking gone wrong. That's what that was. And they had the rematch clauses, the automatic rematch clauses. That's why they were screwed. So they walked into a trap.
Do you think Wilder should have just left it alone with Fury after the draw, after the first fight?
He couldn't. Wasn't allowed to. It was an automatic rematch clause.
Yeah, but I mean, you saw Tyson Fury. He took two fights in between, and he was trying to like kind of get away.
Because Arum convinced those guys that that we got to do a rematch. These guys got to get paid more money. Let's build the fight up. So you go fight Ortiz, you go fight Brazil, and we're going to go fight two guys, and then boom, 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 and then we'll make the fight big. And it went from 300,000 homes the first time to 875,000 homes. So Aaron was correct.
How do you stop the fans from streaming so much nowadays? Because that's all I see. Like, people aren't spending
go back to closed circuit.
I mean, what was your thoughts on Al Haymon trying to come into the game with PBC and free boxing for all? Like, was that a good idea, bad idea?
I called it fraudulent. I said it's a business plan that's either a fraud or a modus of operandi that would fail, and it failed.
What's your thoughts on Dazn starting off saying, bye pay-per-view, and now they're about to start putting on pay-per-view?
That was as dumb as it gets, because you cannot put every fight on streaming. There's certain fights that I mean Joshua fights versus Fury would have to go on pay-per-view. There's too many fights. It was a stupid statement to make. What they should have done was something like this. Okay, are we looking to kill pay-per-view off? We're going to try, and with the fans' help, we're going to do it. That's what they should have done. They said, this is going to kill pay-per-view. No, we need the fans' help for it to kill pay-per-view.
I mean, honestly, listen, I have no problem with pay-per-view. I'm willing to spend top dollar on good quality fights, a good card. But nowadays, the cards is like, fights are like, this shouldn't be on pay-per-view.
Did you like what I just said, my strategy, what it would have been?
I did.
They needed the fans' help, but they didn't reach out to the fans. They told the fans what they were going to do. That was wrong. Okay. That was stupid.
What's your thoughts on? Do you think Al Haymon is trying to change his market and how he's paying his fighters, because he's putting everything on pay-per-view, and a lot of people.
I don't know why, but he's got there's a sickness to his madness.
I think Keith Thurman just did what, 30,000, 40,000 pay-per-view buys against Mario Barrios. Like, obviously, if you're going to the negotiation table, Now we get to see what your worth is. Like, hey, you just did 30,000. Your guarantee's gonna drop, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, it was closer to 40. It was 39 something. It's not the point. The point is overall, their pay-per-views are terrible. They shouldn't be on pay-per-view. The undercards are bad. It's an atrocity.
Mm. You think boxing should use a UFC type of model, like one belt per division? Fighters make a
No,
little bit
no,
less.
no, no, no. Because then you're cutting down. You go from 6 world title challengers every year to one. You can't do that.
Mm.
It's good. There's money for everybody out there. I think that champions should have to fight each other once a year. In other words, you have to fight another champion once a year, and I think the organization should mandate that.
Yeah, one man mandatory and then one, unification.
No, 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 no. I would, yeah. I'm sorry. Make no voluntaries. Make one the mandatory, one the unification. Correcto.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. Do you think the goal in boxing is to be undisputed, or just to like pick and choose and just make as much money as possible?
I'm not sure what the question is.
I'm saying, like, okay, like certain fighters, like Canelo, right? Obviously he's
Well,
doing both.
every fighter is different. Some fighters are about money. Some fighters are legacy. Some fighters are about both. Canelo's about legacy first and money very close behind because he makes so much money. Now, don't forget. Remember, he may get 45 million to fight one guy and 40 million to fight the other guy. But if he wants that title and further his legacy, he's going for the 40 million, not the 45.
Okay. And in closing, first of all, this has been a great interview, great conversation with you. But what do you think fighters need to do to like boost themselves? Get more popular? Because I see a lot of fighters. They, like you said, they think that they're bigger than what they really are.
They need to interact with people more as human beings, not just on not on Twitter. Twitter, and they need to actually go out to other people's fights, shake hands, and meet people. Go to public appearances and be the sportsman that they're supposed to be, and be a diplomat and be a great ambassador for boxing.
You think endorsements would help them as well?
No, no, no. Endorsements are not for boxers because they lose too quick, okay, or they do something stupid and get arrested. So it's not a good fit.
Mm. Well, I thank you for your time, Mr. Rick Glaser. I really appreciate you, man.
Thank Fred anytime. I mean that sincerely. You were an excellent host. You asked great questions, and I hope I gave the answers that your listeners enjoyed. And best regards. And I'm here and available whenever you'd like to do this again. Solely at your convenience, of course.
All right, I appreciate you, man.
One last thing: if anybody wants to follow me on Twitter, it's at Real Rick Glaser 1. I got about 4,200 followers. So there's a couple of fake Rick Glaser accounts. So it's at Real Rick Glaser, the numeral 1. Glaser is Glaser. Thanks very much for having me. Have a great rest of your day. Bye now.
No problem. Mr. Rick Glaser, ladies and gentlemen, hit that like button. Pound for Pound Sports Entertainment. We're out.